This is Dinner with Dinner with Ben, episode 4, brought to you by Ashworks Cutting Boards and T North Carbonated Iced Tea. We're just going to give it a few minutes for people to get here, and then we will get going. In the meantime, I'm going to refresh my Facebook feed so I can see it and answer comments and questions.
Do we want dinner with Bren?
He'll bring her over there. There's too much food. She's going to bring my cat over. Hello, everybody. Hello, hello, hello. Just trying to get my feed up and running so I can answer comments and stuff. Is it working? Yes, it's working. What is happening? Hold on. I'm having technical difficulties, everybody. I'm sorry. Just 1 second. Here we go. Okay. That's better. Okay. Hello. Sorry about that. So yeah, we'll just give it 2 or 3 minutes for some more people to show up, and then we will get cooking. So if you don't know what we're making today, I'm gonna just kind of you probably know what we're making today. But we're gonna do Caesar salad. We're gonna do pasta bolognese with penne noodles, and we're gonna do lemon curd. So the first thing we're gonna have to do is make the bolognese and get that simmering because we want to let that simmer for a little while. And I don't know if you're watching from Nova Scotia, excuse me, but if you are, it's probably 1,000,000 degrees in your kitchen right now because it's 1,000,000 degrees in mine. And so we'll kind of sweat it out together. Wendy says that she's looking forward to the salad dressing. I am too. I'm super excited for the Caesar salad. I think it's going to be delicious. So again, this is Dinner with Ben, episode 4, penne bolognese, brought to you by Ashworks Cutting Boards and T North Carbonated Iced Tea. Okay, so we'll wait 1 more minute. I just have to grab an onion and then we'll get into it. So you can't really tell from the camera. Oh yes, you can. Just 1 second. Suze, can you pull the camera? It's like you can kind of see the lights and everything. Fix that for me, please. My wife is here and she's going to save the day because the lights are in the shot.
Hi.
Is that better?
Not yet.
Well, can you still see the cutting board and everything?
No. Can we put it down a little bit?
As long as you don't cut off the top of my head?
I won't. I think it's more important they see the board than the top of your head.
I think so too. Yeah, Wendy says that Nova Scotia has had too many days of this muggy heat. I could not agree more. I feel like this whole summer has been muggy. What are you trying to do?
Putting it down, but I don't know how.
Twist that handle.
This one?
Yeah. Are you trying to tilt it down or actually?
Tilt it.
Yeah. I'm sorry about the wobbliness. My wife is trying to fix the camera. Yeah, Wendy says, nice, I get to cook for my wife tonight. I do. Although she gets to eat my cooking every night almost. If you see that, yeah, that's fine. That's good. Cool. Okay, stop moving it now. I'm getting nauseous looking at it. All right, let's start cooking. People join in. They can just kind of catch up, and I can walk them through. So, like I said, the first thing we need to do is get the bolognese going. So we're going to need to start browning our beef, and while that's happening, we'll dice up an onion, a carrot, and some celery. So we'll get our pan going. So I'm just putting that on like medium high. So like 6 or 7. My burners go up to 9. 6 or 7 should be good. And as that's heating, start our onion. So we want all of our veg to be about the same size. It's really important so that everything kind of cooks at the same time and together. And so we're just going to take the top off our onion. The bottom would be the root end, top would be where the greens come out. I'm sure we've been over this before. You're going to cut right down through the middle and then peel it. Also, I have a light on my camera today that I don't usually have on, and it's very blinding. So I'm having trouble reading comments and stuff if there is any, but that's all right. Now, my onion is fairly small. As you can see, it's smaller than a baseball. So I'm going to slice it once horizontally, then probably 4 times vertically. So I'm just going to hold my hand flat. I'm not going to put any pressure on the onion. I'm just going to let my knife glide through. If your onion is bigger, you might want to do this 2 or 3 times, but I'm just going to do it the one time. Hi Jessica, thank you for joining us. All I've done so far is I have the pot on to brown the beef. It's just on like kind of medium high, which on my oven, on my stove is like 6 or 7. And I'm just dicing an onion really quickly. Okay, so again, all I did was cut the top off the onion, peeled it, put it down flat, sliced it once horizontally, and now I made 4 vertical slices. And now I'm just going to turn it and dice it. Just like that. And we'll do that again with this one. Okay. So the pan should be hot. I can probably add the beef now, but first we're going to add just a touch of olive oil. Just about a tablespoon, tablespoon and a half. And our ground beef. So I just have 1 pound of ground beef, which will be more than enough for this sauce. You could easily do half beef, half pork in this, and it would be really good. And that's kind of traditionally what it would be. Now I'm just going to break up that ball of beef a little bit. And there we go, that brown. In the meantime, I'm going to dice my celery, which I already washed. I'm just going to cut the ends off. Get rid of those. Now I'm going to cut it in half. So the idea with this is anything that you're cutting, you want to cut it into a manageable size. Trying to cut this whole thing of celery, because I'm going to cut it in half lengthwise too, so trying to cut this whole thing will be very unmanageable. So I always recommend cut it into manageable size pieces. And now I'm just going to cut it in half, like that. And again. And now we're just going to dice it about the same size as the onion, is what we're looking for. And we'll set that to the side. And now carrots. So I have 2 fairly small carrots. If you have like a regular or like a medium-sized carrot, that'd be fine. So I'm just going to cut the tops and the bottoms off. And then I'm going to peel them. And again, if I'm going too fast or if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask or ask me to slow down. The idea is that we're cooking together, so if I need to slow down, just let me know. I'm just going to give that beef a stir. And if there's any like kind of meat stuck to the bottom of the pan, just kind of scrape that off. That's just going to add flavor to our sauce. Hi Patrick, thanks for joining me. Hi Jack. And as more moisture comes out of the beef, it's going to be easier to lick that brown stuff off the bottom of the pot. Okay? Now the sauce we're making is going to be like much more of a classic Bolognese sauce. It's not going to be the heavily tomato-based sauce most of us are used to as a meat sauce. This is going to be, you know, beef stock, red wine if you have any, and just a little bit of tomato to kind of bring it together. What happened to my video? Not sure if we lost video or not. I did on my computer, but I'm going to keep talking in hopes that we didn't lose it. So yeah, this sauce is going to be much more of a traditional Bolognese sauce as opposed to the Bolognese sauce that we're probably all used to. Did I lose it? No. Oh. Hi Jack. So I have my carrot and I just want to dice it the same size as the onion and the celery. So I'm just going to cut it in quarters. What's up?
It says trying to reconnect. You can still record a video, but it won't be live. We'll let you know if your connection improves and you can start broadcasting live. But it's still playing on my phone, but it's behind a little bit.
Yeah, there's a delay. So I don't know, we might have lost the connection. Is it still saying that?
So it says cancel or record video. It says trying to reconnect though, so.
Jessica's saying still here. Okay, we'll
Yeah.
keep going.
Yep.
So I'm just going to dice the carrot. Suze, would you actually mind hopping off the Wi-Fi? That might be kind of...
Oh yeah, didn't think about it. Oh yeah, Lucas says still working here too.
Okay, cool. So we'll just keep going. So I'm just, again, just dicing the carrot the same size as everything else. And now let's talk about browning meat for a second. So often when people say browning meat, it's assumed they mean kind of this like grayish brown color, you know, this color. But what they're really talking about is that color. You want it to actually be brown. You want it to actually have flavor. That's how we're getting flavor in the sausage. We're caramelizing the amino acids, and that's gonna pull out the flavor of the meat itself, which is gonna be really nice and rich. And so my meat is pretty much all brown. And so I'm going to add all of my veg at once. Okay? Now the carrots and the celery, or the onion and the celery rather, are pretty hardy, so it's going to take a while to cook. And the carrots, we almost want them to cook down and dissolve. They're not going to. There's still going to be some texture to them, but we want to really cook them out. Okay? So often what people will do is they'll grate the carrot on like a cheese grater or something like that. We're not going to do that. We're just going to go with a normal dice. I'm sorry, I keep getting distracted by the comments. And I can only kind of see them because of this light. So it's Jack, that'd be your daughter who's interfering with the show. Yes, who's interfering with the show. Hi Brian, thanks for joining me. So now that we have the veg in, we're going to turn the heat down a little bit just to medium. We're just going to let that cook for a minute or two, and then I'm going to wipe the board down. What? You want to come say hi to everybody?
Not really. I'm just wondering if you need any help. Hi everyone. I don't know if it's in the shot or not.
What?
I don't know if I was in the shot or not, but...
Yeah, you were. Hi, Barb. So again, any kind of dark bits that are sticking to the bottom of your pan, it's fine, because once we add the liquids, it's going to lift it up and it's going to just flavor the sauce. So while we're cooking that, let's grab our can of tomato paste and get that open. And we're not going to use this whole can, we're just going to use about 2 tablespoons of it. So the rest of it, you can wrap in plastic wrap and freeze, or just put it in a small container, keep it in your fridge for a few days. But it freezes very, very well. So we just want to cook this until the onions start to turn translucent. We don't have to cook them all the way through because this is going to simmer for quite a while. Barb says one of these days, one of these Mondays, she's going to cook along with me. Got to get her act together. Yes, you do, Barb. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot of people cooking along. I think you'd enjoy it. Okay, so good to see you too, Brian. Okay, so next step, we're going to add about 2 tablespoons of the tomato paste in here. Okay, right in the pot. Because what we want to do is kind of caramelize the tomato paste a little bit, which means we're going to turn the natural sugars that are in there into like almost like a caramel. You're just going to make it extra sweet, because you definitely want that little bit of sweetness in the sauce, because it actually balances out the flavor of the beef. Okay, so we're going to add about 2 tablespoons, 2 big tablespoons. Okay. And if your onions aren't fully translucent, it's okay, because again, this is going to simmer for quite a while, and that's why we want to get it on right away. So next thing, I have some chili flakes here. Now I like my Bolognese sauce fairly spicy, so I'm going to add about a teaspoon of these dried chilies. And these are dried Thai chilies, so they're a little bit extra hot. Obviously, whatever you're comfortable with, don't add more spice than you think you're comfortable with, right? You know what you can tolerate. So I'm just going to pop that right in there. And we want to add this with the tomato paste and the oils in there, because that's going to bring out the flavor of the chili. It's going to, what we would call, bloom the flavor. And now, the final kind of dry ingredient here is just some dried oregano. And I'm just going to take a nice big pinch, probably about a teaspoon of dried oregano. And now, I'm going to use red wine. If you're only using stock, you would add it all now. But I'm going to use wine, and I'm going to add about a cup. And then I'm going to reduce it down. And that's when I'm going to add the stock, is after that. But if you're just using the stock, add it all now. And then scrape up anything that's on the bottom of your pot. I guess I should say, by add it all, I don't mean add the whole container. I didn't clarify that in the instructions. We're just going to add half, so about 2 cups of beef stock. Sorry about that. And you should be able to see now all that stuff that's stuck to the bottom of the pot is lifting up, and that's all flavoring your sauce, which is exactly what we want. And now just so you can kind of see what's happening here in the color, it's a dark red from the tomato and the wine. There's going to be a lot of flavor in here. And it's a nice chunky sauce. It's going to go really well with the penne, because all that meat and sauce is going to get jammed into the noodles as we toss it around, which is exactly what we want. And I'm making a mess. Okay, so my wine is pretty much completely gone. It's all evaporated and been absorbed into the meat. So now I'm going to add 2 cups of beef stock. And yes, this is store-bought beef stock, obviously. I find I make chicken stock fairly often because we eat a lot of chicken. But making beef stock, I don't often just buy beef bones to make stock. And you know, when you eat beef, generally you don't get a lot of bones with it. So I often buy beef stock, and I mean, if you've been watching regularly, you've seen that we've been buying chicken stock. And it's just because I don't make enough of it to keep up with the amount that I use. So about half of this container. I mean, if you're using the powdered stuff, that's fine too. Just follow the instructions on the container and get about 2 cups. So now we're just going to bring this to a boil, and then we're going to turn the heat down and just simmer it. And I'm actually going to move it onto the back burner just to kind of get it out of the way. So I'm going to bring that to a boil. We forgot to add garlic to it. That's alright. We'll make the Caesar a little extra garlicky. It happens. Hello, Laura. Thank you for joining us. Yeah, sorry guys. Oh well, not the end of the world. It'll still be delicious, I promise. Okay, next step. We gotta start the lemon curd. Okay? So, for the lemon curd, we're gonna take 3 lemons. And if you need me to slow down for a minute, just let me know. Okay, so we're going to take 3 lemons. We're going to roll them. Okay, and we're going to get a medium pot, and we're going to fill it just about 1 inch with water. And we're going to bring that to a boil. So what we're going to do is called a double boiler, because we're essentially making a custard. That's what lemon curd is. If we cook it over a direct heat, the eggs will cook and get pretty gross. So we're not going to do that. So we're going to take a bowl, preferably a stainless steel one, that's going to fit in the pot. Okay? And what we're going to do is give these a quick rinse. We're going to take the zest of one of them. So Jessica says, 2-person crew working here with a gentle sweat on. We're missing everything. How much water are we boiling? So really just about 1 inch in the bottom of the pot. Okay, and just make sure that your bowl sits on top, and you don't want the bottom of the bowl touching the water. It's very important. And my sauce is boiling now, so I'm going to turn that down to kind of medium-low, so 3 on my stove. Thank you, Wendy. Wendy is answering Jessica's question for me. Thank you very much. Okay, so we're going to zest 1 lemon. Now when we do this, if you don't have a zester, it's not the end of the world. You can use a really fine part of your cheese grater. But what is, or you don't have to use the zest at all, but I like it. It adds a lot of flavor. The key here is when you get to the white part. So I don't know if you can see this. I hope you can. When you get to this part, so this is a little yellow. This is pretty white. Stop. That white part is called the pith. It's on all citrus, and it's very bitter. Even a little tiny bit of that can make this whole thing really bitter. So you just want the yellow stuff. Okay, and we're just going to do 1 lemon in here. And it's okay if you leave a little bit of zest on here. That's better than getting any of the white pith in the bowl. Okay, so now we're going to use about a half cup of lemon juice. So grab a measuring cup. It's the easiest way to kind of do this. When the water's boiling, my water is, I'm just going to turn it off. That's it. So we're just going to roll our lemons, right? Let's set this aside for a sec. And if you remember last week, we didn't cut the lemons across the equator like you normally would. We cut them north to south and off center. So I'll show you that, and we're going to do that again. So, it's off center, and the reason we're doing that is because it allows us to work with the natural structure of the lemon rather than against it, and we can get way more juice out of it. And Jessica, this is where you would use your limes. Save your lemon for the Caesar salad. Okay? And again, we're just going to go half a cup of lemon juice. And if you get some seeds in here, don't worry about it, because we're going to strain it out. And if you have a lemon juicer, by all means use that. That's a great idea, Wendy. Wendy says whenever she needs to use lemons on anything that just needs juice, she'll zest it first and keep the zest in a container of sugar, so she always has lemon sugar on hand. It's a great idea. So this is going to work out to be probably about 2 lemons, maybe a little bit more. Oh, I turned off the wrong. So Jessica, the lemon trick, the way I'm cutting the lemons, that'll work with the limes as well, any citrus. And again, this is really good for your hands, even if it doesn't feel like it. Maybe it'll be 3 lemons. I promise this is going to be worth it. I promise. Oh, I just sent lemon juice all over my computer, all over everything. Awesome. Deanna Brandt says, I needed the Epicure lemon juicer. It gets every drop. Deanna, I have an issue with any tool that's single use. It kind of drives me crazy. Like, I really prefer to have things that I can use for multiple jobs, but that's because I'm crazy. Wendy says, 2 smells she loves in the kitchen, fresh lemon and fresh basil. Thank you, Suze, for cleaning my computer. You can just see her head there. I love those flavors as well. So let's call it 2.5 lemons. The morning should do it. So close. So close. Okay, so there we go. Half a cup of lemon juice. I'm just going to get rid of all these lemon carcasses. I think that's the proper terminology for this. Lemon carcasses. And if it isn't, that's what we're going with anyway. Lemon seeds on the floor. Ugh. the recipe on my site. Which one? Wendy just asked how much juice you need with the recipe on the site. I'm not sure which recipe you are referring to. In this one, we're just adding half a cup. So I'm just filtering this through my hands, just making sure I get any seeds out. Because we definitely don't want any seeds in here. Yeah, which site? On the Facebook page, Wendy? Hold on. Let me check something. Sorry. Sorry, everybody. Bear with me. I just want to check something here. Hold on, Wendy, I'm checking. I'm not sure. No. Hold on, everybody, hold on. Do you mean, like, Wendy, I'm not sure. Sorry, Jessica. I'm not sure which lemon curd recipe you're talking about. Are you talking about the one that we're doing right now? I'm confused, I'm sorry. So I also just realized that I forgot to put eggs on the recipe. So I forgot to put eggs on the list. I'm really hoping you all have eggs because we're going to need 3 for this, and we're going to need at least 1 for the Caesar. I blame the heat. My wife just said to blame the heat. That's what I blame. Yeah, I don't know. So, to this, we're going to add 3 eggs. Really hoping you guys all have eggs. And we're actually going to add 1 egg and 2 just yolks. Okay? So 1 whole egg and 2 just yolks. So I find the best way to get the yolks out of here is to just break the egg in the bowl rather than passing back and forth from one shell to the other. The easiest way is to just break the egg in the bowl and pull it out. You're just way less likely to break the yolk this way. Okay. So 2 egg yolks and 1 whole egg in there. And we're just going to set this aside. Now we're going to add a 1/2 cup of sugar. So I have a quarter cup here. I'm just going to do 2. Okay. Now I'm just going to whisk this up. And then we take that pot of water that was boiling but isn't anymore, and we put our pot over it and we whisk. And this is going to take a little while. I'm just going to turn my sauce up a little bit because I moved it to a small burner and it's not really doing anything. So again, in here we have the zest of 1 lemon. We have the juice of like 2.5 lemons, which is about a half cup. And then we have 1 whole egg and 2 egg yolks. That's what we have in here. And so it's important that you keep whisking this, otherwise your eggs will cook, and well, they'll kind of scramble, they'll get stuck to the bottom, and it's not going to taste very good, it's not going to feel very good in your mouth. And you don't want your water to be boiling anymore, you don't want it to be on heat anymore, because it'll be too hot for your eggs. But I think that this might have cooled down a little too much. So I'm just going to heat this back up. And while I'm heating my water back up, I'm actually going to cut my butter. So we want about 6 tablespoons of butter, which is like a third of a cup approximately. So you do have markings on your butter package. So I'm just going to go between the second quarter here, and that should be good. I'm going to cut that into smaller pieces. Guys, I'm not having a great day. I forgot to put garlic in the sauce. I forgot to tell you to get eggs. What is going on? We need some, I think we need some lighting to break this humidity. That's what I'm blaming it on. So as soon as my water comes back to a boil, I'm going to pull it off heat, and then I'll start whisking again. And the sauce is looking good. Like I said, because I put it on a smaller burner, it didn't quite cook as fast as I wanted to, so I just turned the heat back up. But that's okay. So if your liquid should be about half evaporated by now. If it isn't, then just turn the heat up a little bit and we'll kind of speed that process up a little bit. Wendy says the weather says more humidity and higher heat this coming week. Awesome. I'll make sure that I go through the ingredients list much more thoroughly for Wednesday, I promise. Okay, so my water's back up to a boil. And now we whisk. We whisk, we whisk, we whisk. You don't have to whisk this like super fast. You don't have to go crazy. You just want to keep it moving so that it doesn't have time to cook to the bottom of the bowl. And so the idea here, what we're trying to do is, we are trying to cook the egg. We're trying to coagulate the egg yolks. But we don't want to, make them completely hard, right? Which is a fine balance. And this is it. We're just going to do this for a little while, guys. If you're only watching, if you're not cooking along, this is not going to be a fun part of the show to watch. I'm sorry, but it isn't. When you do this professionally, you get used to using both hands to do things, so I can multitask. Huh? I think that's kind of impressive. Right? Guys? Guys? So your lemon should be starting to feel warm. It's like lukewarm, but it's gonna as it heats up, it'll kind of heat up exponentially, which is what we're looking for. Whisk, whisk, whisk. See, this isn't hard work. It just takes a little while. But that's alright. We have time. Right? And I should say that you want to kind of do stuff like this in stainless steel bowls as opposed to aluminum, because the aluminum will discolor and the acid from the lemon will kind of react with it, and then that will kind of get in your food. It's not what you want. Chances of you having an aluminum bowl are pretty slim though, so don't worry about it. It's okay. That promise is going to be worth it. I know it may not seem like it as you're sweating and your arm's getting tired, but I promise it's going to be worth it. I promise, promise, promise. Ooh. It tastes good. So when we're done this, we can strain out the lemon zest, or we can leave it in. I'm going to opt to leave it in because I feel like it adds just a little kind of texture, and it adds the flavor. And not everybody has a fine mesh strainer to strain it through. Wendy asks if glass is okay. Glass, I would generally try and stay away from. Pyrex would probably be okay. The risk with glass is that, especially when you first start, where any of your eggs are cold or anything like that, then you have two contradictory temperatures, and that often will cause glass to shatter. So, as I would say, Pyrex is okay, but glass is probably not a good idea. I wanted to do this facing the camera, but I think I'm going to have to go back to the burner and heat this water back up. But I'm going to keep stirring as the water heats up. Just like this. So if your water's getting cool at all, just take it back to the stove, turn the burner on, and just watch it. You don't really want it to boil underneath here. Simmering is okay, but you definitely don't want it to boil. I'm going to get my sausage stir while I'm back here. So what we're looking for with the sauce, mine's starting to foam. Yours probably should be too, and that's a good sign. That means we're on our way to where we want to be. But what we want is this to really thicken up. Like we're looking for, like imagine the texture of like a lemon meringue pie. That's kind of what we're going for here. And then we're going to whisk the butter into it, and it's going to kind of smooth it out a little bit. There we go, now we're cooking. So because I'm doing this over heat, the change is gonna happen quickly. So you have to watch it very carefully. And again, keep it moving. If you notice it starts sticking to the side of the bowl, either scrape it down or don't, but don't do both. So if you let it build up and then scrape it down into your pot, you're gonna get that scrambled egg flavor, which you absolutely don't want. So either you can constantly be scraping down the edge or just never do, but don't do a combination of both. And yeah, so it's starting to boil. So I'm just going to turn the heat down to a simmer and whisk. And so if you're wondering, this is the exact same process, almost the exact same process for making hollandaise sauce. Generally the butter would be hot, like we'd melt it first, generally clarified, and there wouldn't be any sugar in here, less acid, but the same kind of idea. And really it's the same process as making like an emulsified salad dressing, which we've done already and which we're going to do once we start the salad. Same idea. Same basic principles. And mine's really starting to foam, which I don't know if you can see, it's still pretty liquid, but hopefully you can see that foam there. And that's, again, what we're looking for. Oh, Jesus. Jessica says we used an egg and 2 egg whites, then added a yolk. Jessica, if you have more eggs, just add 2 yolks to it, and then it should be okay. But kind of mix them up separately before you add them. Okay, so mine is really starting to come up to temperature now. It's getting really thick, but not quite thick enough. So I am just going to take the pot off the heat and finish it over here. And hopefully you can see this change now. You can see the color change, you can see the texture change. So we want it to be a little thicker than this, but it's definitely almost there. So close, so close. I mean, like I said, this is not a complicated dish. It's just a time-consuming one. Almost. Almost there. So okay, so here's the texture I have, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the pot out of the water. I'm going to put this back on the heat. I'm going to bring it back to a boil and then simmer it, and I'm going to slowly start whisking the butter, and then we'll go back over the heat. Okay. So just one little thing at a time, whisk it until it melts. And so what we're doing is the emulsification process. So this is the exact same as making the vinaigrettes, making the Caesar dressing, which we're going to do in a few minutes. This is what makes it lemon curd. This is going to make it really silky and smooth and give it that nice rich texture and flavor. The like characteristic lemon curd flavor. So all we're doing is whisking the butter in here nice and slow. Put a little chunk in, about a half teaspoon, whisk it in until it melts, and then we add the next one. Right? Because as we learned with the vinaigrette, if we add the fat too quickly, it's going to separate. It's going to overpower the ability of the egg yolks. Yes, Wendy, the sugar is in the bowl. Suze, can you come check to see if I lost video? This is being weird again.
See what?
Do I still have live video on there?
It still says the same thing as before. It hasn't
Yeah.
changed. So ask people if what they say.
I don't know if we're live. On mine it says live video interrupted. So I'm just going to refresh.
They're not missing much anyways right now.
So I'm back. I don't know if I ever went away.
Laura says she hears you, she sees you.
Okay. So my on my laptop it disappeared too. I'm not sure what's going on. Yeah, so Wendy, the sugar is in the bowl. It's a half cup.
Jessica says, you're still there. I, however, missed what happened with the sugar. Laura says, Wendy, put your seatbelt on. Wendy says, Facebook booted me. I see and hear you. And Patrick says, I have it live.
Okay, so Jessica, the sugar and all the eggs and the lemon juice and the lemon zest are in the bowl. I cooked this over the heat until it got thick, and then I took it off and I started slowly whisking in the butter. And now this is what it looks like. And I still have one more nub of butter to go in. Can you see that? So I'm just going to give it a little taste. It tastes amazing. Woo!
I think I should have a taste for helping you.
My wife wants a taste as well.
That's delicious.
What? You gotta tell the camera.
It's delicious. Confirmed. He wasn't just saying it.
So I was gonna put this back over the heat, but I don't think I need to. It's thickened up enough, and as it cools, it's gonna thicken up more. I'm gonna turn my sauce way down. And so what I'm gonna do now is just put it in some jars. If you have like cups,
Just one big bowl.
my wife said just one big bowl. So if you have cups or jars or ramekins or whatever you want, I'm just gonna use these nice jars. Laura, is that come home weekend in Cape Breton and St. Peter's? And now I'm just going to spoon this into the ramekins. I think we're going to get 3. Alright, make sure you don't lose any of this. Make sure you scrape the bowl down. Oh, I'm excited for this. So, I'm just going to seal these, put them in the fridge. Actually, I'm not even going to completely seal them because they're still a little bit warm. So I'm just going to put the lids on like that. There's still some, there's enough room for air to circulate so that they can kind of cool. Otherwise, condensation will form on the top of the lid and drip on them, and then you get kind of a wet, gross thing. So, just going to put them, and you can kind of see, I don't know, they're already thickening up. And it's beautiful. I'm really excited. Okay, I'm going to take a second and clean up while everybody's catching up. There's not many dishes, but might as well do them while you have a second. Okay, so I still have my pot from the double boiler, still has the water in it. I'm just going to add more water. I'm going to bring it up to a boil. This is what we're going to use for the pasta sauce, or for the pasta rather, when we get there. And we're going to add salt to the water. You want to add enough salt that it tastes like the ocean. Okay? Okay. Oh, here it is. I'm looking for the frying pan. It's right in front of us. So here's what's going on with my sauce. You can see it's got a nice thick texture, and I just have the heat turned down. I'm just simmering that. Because the idea is that I used like a lean ground beef, and I probably should have said this earlier. If you were using like a medium ground beef, you would want to, or like even like a really fatty ground beef, you would want to drain the fat. Mine was lean, so a little bit of fat came out, but a really good Bolognese sauce has that fat emulsified back into it. Might not be the healthiest thing in the world, but it's all flavor and it's really delicious. So that's what I did. So next, we're going to make some bacon bits. So I just have this really nice bacon I got from my local butcher. I'm just going to take 2 strips. If you just have like regular bacon, that's fine too. You're not going to need a ton of it. Now all I'm going to do with this is just cut it into pieces about the same width as my pinky. Okay? If that makes sense. Hello, Laura and her 2 sisters. Thanks for watching. Okay. So I have my bacon. I'm just going to put this in the pan. I didn't preheat the pan at all. It's cold. Well, room temperature, which in here is like 40 degrees. And I'm just going to turn it on to like medium low, or medium high. Sorry, low high, if that makes sense. I have it on 4. So my burner goes up to 9. I have it on 4. Okay, that's what we're looking for. And then I'm just going to give my board a quick clean with hot soapy water, get the bacon off there, off my knife. Now let's make some Caesar dressing. So we're going to use a fairly large bowl because we're going to make the dressing in the bowl, then we're just going to toss the salad right into it. I think it is Brothers, Wendy. So Wendy asked if it was Brothers Double Smoked Bacon. So I got it from Vessel Meats at Alderney Market. She's there, Brianna Hagel, she's there every Saturday. And I'm pretty sure the bacon that I have right now was smoked by Brothers. She has another one that's smoked by Dexter's in New Glasgow, but I don't think they had it, so I think this stuff's probably theirs. But yeah, it's a really nice bacon. So we're just going to let the bacon cook. And in here, we're going to add 1 egg. More eggs, I know, I didn't even say eggs. And we've used 4 of them. So we're going to have 1 egg in here. We're going to have the juice of 1 lemon. So the bacon I'm actually going to turn down to 3. We don't want it to cook too fast. The idea here is we want the fat to render out of the bacon. And we're going to make what's called lardon, which is essentially like really super crispy bacon, but you cook it very slowly. So juice of 1 lemon in with our egg here. So this, I'm sure most of you already know this. A lot of people think that Caesar salad is Italian. It is not. It was actually created by a Mexican-American man named Caesar, can't remember his last name. But he was a hotel owner, I believe. Anyway, one day, this was around the I want to say the 1920s, that might be wrong. Anyway, he owned a hotel, a series of hotels, some in Tijuana, some in New Mexico, And he was at one of them, and they kind of ran out of food, but some important people came in, so he just threw everything he had in a bowl and made this salad for them, and they loved it, and that became the Caesar salad. That's one of a few different stories, but they all involve this guy Caesar, and so this is his salad. So I think originally it was like egg, anchovy, olive oil, Parmesan cheese, and pepper. I think that's all it was. This version's and lemon. This version's fairly close to that, but instead of anchovies, I'm going to use fish sauce. You can use Worcestershire sauce instead. Worcestershire sauce has barley in it, which is not gluten-free. As most of you know, I can't eat gluten without getting real sick. So I'm using fish sauce. Oh, thank you very much, Trey Interest. I can't pronounce that. I'm sorry, but thank you. So I'm going to add like 3 drops of fish sauce. You can do the same with Worcestershire sauce. I'm just going to give this bacon a stir. Lucy, thank you, Lucy. And this bacon already smells amazing. Okay, so we have in here 1 egg, juice of 1 lemon, and 3 drops of fish sauce. I'm going to add a teaspoon of Dijon mustard. And salt and pepper. Okay, and 1 clove of garlic. I keep forgetting the garlic. I don't know what's going on. So, I'm just going to cut the root end off the garlic. I'm going to crush it. Don't do that. Don't do what I just did. That was stupid. Just like you're giving CPR, just 1 quick push. Don't slap, because if your hand slips, you're going to cut it on the blade, and make sure the blade is pointing away from you. Okay, now we're just going to cut this really quickly. And we want like a pureed garlic. So we're going to add a nice big pinch of salt to this. And if you watched last week, you probably remember this. You probably didn't play with it all week, and if you didn't watch last week, pay very close attention to what I'm about to do. So the idea here is we're going to use the flat edge of our knife. We're going to keep our knife as flat as we can, and we're going to grind the garlic. So the salt is going to act like sandpaper between the garlic, the cutting board and the knife rather, and it's going to puree the garlic. So the idea is easiest if your handle of your knife is hanging off your cutting board. And all you're going to do, you have your mound of garlic, you're going to start on the outside, and you're just going to pull. And you're going to work your way in. Okay? And it's going to take some practice, but once you get the hang of it, it's very, very quick. And you get perfectly pureed garlic. So all I'm doing is I started on the edge, and I'm just working my way in. And again, I'm keeping the knife as flat as I can. A lot of people have a tendency to lift their knife like this. Don't do that. Just keep it flat. And then just like that, pureed garlic. And now that's going to go in here. I'm just going to turn that bacon down a little bit more. And now we whisk. Now if you wanted to, instead of adding all that lemon juice in here, you could add some red wine vinegar. But the lemon juice is great for this. So that's why we have it. Now I'm going to use olive oil. If your olive oil has a bitter flavor, don't use it. Use canola oil or something like that. This is a good quality olive oil. It doesn't have a bitter flavor, so I'm alright to use it. And we're just going to start with a few drops. Wendy says that she wishes we had smell-o-vision. Wendy, you say that, but like I said, it's like 40 degrees in here. I feel like maybe I don't smell the best right now. Maybe it's better that you can't smell me. And we're just going to whisk in, a few drops at a time. And also we're going to whisk in about a quarter cup of olive oil. And you can measure it out if you want. I'm not going. And so you might be wondering why we're not going to cook this egg. This is how you make Caesar dressing or mayonnaise. It's made with raw eggs. There's enough acid in here that it's essentially going to kill any bacteria that's in the egg, so it is safe to eat. If you're pregnant or like a million years old, you might not want to eat this.
I wanted to confirm to Wendy that smells amazing here.
Oh, Wendy, my wife said she wants to confirm that it smells amazing.
It smells like bacon and garlic and meat and tomatoes. With like a little bit of lemon.
Thank you, wife. I refer to my wife as wife. Just so everybody's clear. We don't call each other pet names. We just call each other wife and husband. Okay. So I have my Caesar dressing, and it's not white like the Caesar dressings you'll see in the grocery store. Could be a little thicker, so we might add a little bit more oil. And I'm going to pull my bacon because it's getting a little bit too crispy. All I'm going to do, a little bit of paper towel. And I'm not pouring the bacon in here. I'm just spooning the bacon out, trying to leave as much fat in the pan as I can. And you'll see why in a second. So I'm just going to set that aside. I'm going to set this aside for a sec. And I'm going to take my baguette. Wendy said that she and her husband call each other it and thing. I like it. So this is a gluten-free baguette. I've never made croutons with this. I don't know how it's going to work out. If you don't have a baguette, that's fine. Any kind of bread will work. But what you want to do is just break it up. We don't want to cut it. We want kind of jagged edges. We want nice big pieces. Because the idea here is we want the croutons, that's what we're making here, we want the croutons to be soft on the inside and kind of crispy on the outside. And if you bought a whole baguette, you don't need to use the whole thing. Tomorrow for lunch, have the rest of it with some cheese and some meat or something like that, or just dip it in the sauce. I'm only going to use about a third of this one. And all I'm going to do is put this pan back on the heat with the bacon fat in it. I'm just going to toss these in here. I'm going to take 1 clove of garlic. I'm going to cut the end off, crush it, and just throw that in there too. And season with a little salt or a little pepper. There's probably more than enough salt in the bacon fat. You're not going to want to add any extra. Yeah, it's Udi's baguettes. They're frozen. There's 2 in a bag, but they're actually pretty good. And we're just going to toss this. Turn the heat up a little bit. I'm going to turn my sauce off. It's thick enough. And we're just going to let that toast. Now, I am going to add some more oil to this, but I'm going to add canola oil actually. I want my Caesar dressing to be a little thicker, so I'm just going to make more of it, and I'll take some of it out of the bowl. So I'm just whisking canola oil into it. So this technique, people often get really weird about tossing things in the pan, and you don't have to do this, but if you want to know, this will be helpful. So often people will take their pan and they'll just kind of go like that. All you're doing is you're going to angle the pan down slightly, like only slightly. You're just going to push forward and stop. Okay? Maybe with a slight pullback, but really it's just that stop, and you're using the natural curve of the pan to do the work. Okay? So again, you don't have to do that, but if you were ever wondering how we do it, that's how. So I'm going to take take some of the dressing out of here because I made a lot. Wendy says she cheats sometimes and uses an immersion blender. Is that wrong? It isn't, Wendy. I prefer to do it by hand, especially when you're making an egg-based dressing. The risk of overheating it with a blender is very real, and then it'll split. And I prefer to do this stuff by hand because it allows me to have more control over the texture and the consistency, and I can see what's happening. But if you want to use an immersion blender, that's fine too. It's not really going to hurt it. Okay, so croutons, I'm going to take off heat now, and they're kind of toasted on the outside, soft in the middle. That's perfect. They have that nice bacon flavor. And now I have my dressing. So this is what I poured off. It's quite a bit, but that's fine. We'll probably eat Caesar salad for the next couple of days because I have a ton of romaine here. And this is local romaine. If you live in, the Halifax area, this was on sale at both of the main grocery stores. It's like $1.29, and it is local, so I would highly recommend going to get some if you don't have any right now. And now, so you can see I have about a quarter cup of dressing in here. Next step, we're going to wash our lettuce. Now, if you don't have a salad spinner, that's fine. You can just wash it in a bowl, kind of pat it dry with a paper towel. I do have a salad spinner, so I'm going to use it. And actually, while I'm doing this, my water is boiling for the pasta, so I might as well get the pasta on because this is going to happen pretty quick. Obviously, this is gluten-free pasta, and this stuff actually cooks pretty quickly. I think. What do you say? I think it cooks in like 3 or 4 minutes. Oh, 8 minutes. I'm wrong. Okay. So I'm just going to make enough for my wife and I to have some tonight. The gluten-free pasta does not reheat well at all, so I'm just going to cook like a third of the box. And if you're wondering, this has white rice, brown rice, corn, and quinoa. And it's easy to digest. That's what it says on the box. Okay, anyway. Oh, making a mess. I overshot my pot. That's alright. So, no, a little bit. So ideally, when you're cooking pasta, you want to do it in a fairly large pot. Like really, I should be cooking this in there. You want at least like 5 times the amount of water to pasta, because the idea is that when you're cooking the pasta, and this is partly why we salt it as well. When you're cooking the pasta, you don't want the water to stop boiling when you add the pasta. You want it to constantly be boiling. So the salt raises the boiling point and hopefully prevents it from the temperature dropping too quickly. And the larger volume of water you have, the less likely it's going to stop boiling when you add the pasta. The reason why we want the water to keep boiling is the pasta cooks more consistently, quicker, and it prevents it from sticking too because it's constantly being agitated and in motion. If you can't do that, it's not the end of the world. I mean, my pot stopped boiling, but that's kind of the idea. That's what you would ideally like to have happen. And my pot's already boiling again, so I mean, it didn't stop for a while. So, romaine lettuce, if you have any kind of gross bits on the end, just pick them off. Other than that, we're just going to break these into like kind of bite-sized pieces. I mean, if you have to cut it with a knife when you're eating it, not the end of the world. We're not going to cut it because cutting it will bruise it and will turn it brown much quicker. And it just, it looks cool when you do this. I find it just adds texture. It adds a little character to the salad. And I like the different textures. When the lettuce is all exactly the same, it's kind of boring to eat. It's kind of boring to look at. And people, for whatever reason, will sometimes pull these ribs out and toss them. A little secret is every cook in the world, this is like one of their favorite snacks. These ribs right here, we just like pull them off and munch on them because they're just like a nice crunchy, flavorful, watery little bite. So keep those in. They're really, really good. And I'm just going to do these last, maybe one more leaf, and that'll be it. Just make enough so that you have like about a cup of lettuce, not like pushed down, but about a cup of lettuce for each person eating your salad. So it's just my wife and I, so about 2 cups is fine. It's a little more than 2 cups, but that's all right. And I'm just going to give my pasta a stir, make sure it's not sticking. Now, storing lettuce, so this head of iceberg, romaine, I just bought today. And to store it, ideally, you don't want to cut it because, like I said, it'll go brown. You don't want to break it up because it's going to go brown. But what you can do is take a towel or a paper towel, dampen it, and then wrap it fully. And that'll keep it fresh for quite a bit longer than if you just throw it in the fridge. So that's what I'm going to do with this later on, is I'm just going to wrap it, the whole thing in a towel, and then wet it with cold water and put that in my crisper. And that'll keep it fresh for a long time. Same thing with herbs, same thing with like any kind of head of greens, except for like bib lettuce, which is really, really soft and will just die in like a day. So my lettuce is just sitting in this water. I'm just going to pour it out. And we'll give it a spin. This, if you don't have a salad spinner, I'm not endorsed by IKEA or anything like that, but I bought this at IKEA for like $4, and it's wicked. You know, it's not huge. It's not like the best salad spinner you'll ever see, but it does a really good job for the price. And I've seen them at Superstore and Sobeys for like $40 for pretty much the exact same thing. So I would recommend just going to the grocery store. And my dressing is kind of thickened up now as well as it sat, which is perfect. I'm just going to give it a taste. Tastes amazing. It's a little bit under seasoned, like it could use some salt, but because we're adding the bacon and the Parmesan to this, we don't want to add too much salt because those are going to add salt into it, right? So that's kind of the thought process behind that. So I'm just going to put my lettuce right in here. Now I always like to add some Parmesan right to the bowl and some on top. And now I'm going to do a quick rant on Parmesan because I always do when I break this thing out. So this is a block of Parmesan cheese. It was about this big when I bought it, about this wide. It cost me about $12. The amount of Parmesan cheese you will get, and I just bought it at the grocery store in the deli section. The amount of Parmesan cheese you will get off this is more than you will get in the brand name, already graded, room, like shelf stable Parmesan cheese container. It is a much better quality. This is actual Parmesan cheese, actually from Italy. And it'll last in your fridge for a very, very, very long time. What you will notice is as it sits in your fridge, hopefully you can see these little white spots will form. That isn't mold. What's happening is the cheese is kind of drying out, and as moisture is being drawn out, salt goes to the surface. So that's all that is salt. Like I said, this will last for a very long time wrapped up in your fridge, and it is definitely worth buying this as opposed to the shitty, already ground Parmesan cheese. This, yes. That other stuff, no. Hey, if you love that, my wife loves that stuff. She buys it every once in a while, but this is definitely a much better deal. So I'm just going to grate some of this. Again, you can use a box grater. I'm just going to use my microplane. And I'm going to grate a nice couple of tablespoons in here. Check my pasta, which is like 30 seconds away. So I'm going to put about half of my bacon bits in here and eat one. Bacon bits. I'm gonna toss this. Yeah, I'm gonna put some of my croutons in here. Try not to get that clove of garlic in there because it's not going to be a lot of fun to bite into. Guys, this is going to be delicious. So that pasta is done. I'm going to grab a colander and just drain it really quickly. I'll just let that sit for a second. Oh, guys. I'm very, very excited to eat this salad. Here we go. We're going to put a little bit more Parmesan over the top. We're going to put some fresh pepper over the top. Put the last couple of croutons over the top. And bacon bits. So there we have our Caesar salad. Okay. Set that aside. Now our pasta. So I'm just going to put the penne back in the pot. I'm going to take 2 or 3 nice sized spoonfuls. Maybe 4. I don't want to put the penne right in this pot because there's going to be extra sauce, and it's always better to kind of do this separately. So I'm going to mix this up. We're going to add some Parmesan cheese right in here. We're going to add butter. We're going to add about a tablespoon of butter. Sorry, wife. So we're going to add a tablespoon of butter in here. Oh, guys. Guys. Ooh, so that butter is just going to like bring out this really rich flavor in here, and it's going to be gorgeous. You could definitely chop up some fresh parsley, put it over top of this, some fresh basil as well. It would be really good. Actually, Suze, can you grab me some fresh basil, please? My wife's going to grab me some fresh basil from our basil plant. I'm going to put that over the top of this. And so, like I said, this is not, your typical tomato-based meat sauce, right? This is a much more traditional Bolognese sauce. And it's going to have a ton of flavor. Now, we're going to add some pepper to the top of this. We're going to add a nice big pinch of salt. Wife.
Her basil's not super healthy. You're going to want to rinse that off.
Now a little bit of fresh basil. And of course, a little bit more Parmesan over the top. So here we go, guys. We have homemade Caesar salad with bacon bits. I have gluten-free kind of garlic croutons. Then we have penne bolognese. Thank you so much for watching. Oh, right, the dessert. Sorry, guys. Sorry. What was I thinking? So here we have the lemon curd. You can see how much it's set. Well, you can see just by how I have it tilted. And all I'm going to do with this is take a couple fresh raspberries. A little rinse. And then just right over the top. And voila! Alright guys, thank you so much for joining me tonight. Yes, Wendy, yes. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. I hope that if you cooked along, you enjoyed it. If you did, please post some pictures. I would love to see them. I always love to see what you guys make. Thank you to my sponsors, Ashworks Cutting Boards and T North Carbonated Iced Tea. Thank you to all of you, and I'll be back again next Monday right here on Facebook Live at 6 p.m. Atlantic. Stay tuned. On Wednesday, I will release the menu and the ingredients, and I'll make sure that all of the ingredients are actually on the ingredients list this week. I will see you later. Thanks, everybody. Have a great night.